Bienvenidos, Ushamdid, and welcome Anne Arundel Community College learners from the Spring 2023 semester taking the CTS-233 Section 400 Network Programmability course. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's DEVASC 200-901 Certification Exam Preparation course, and in this video we're going to be focusing again on the last part, Part 4, of Lab 3.1.12, where we're taking a look at the Python virtual environment, or I should say Python development tools, and specifically Python virtual environments. So let's go ahead and dive in to the virtual machine, where we are still in the terminal window here, and we are on the Linux CLI command line. Now, we've created a series of virtual environments. We created a math dev for maybe math work. We've created a web dev for web work. And we've got dev fun that is part of the lab. And so we're going to stick with dev fun here. Now, remember, as a reminder, the pip3 freeze command is going to list out all of the libraries and functionality that we see here, and this is our main distribution because, again, remember, we are not in the virtual environment yet. However, if I go ahead and I say source dev fun bin activate, this has put us into that Python virtual environment, and you can see right here it tells you which virtual environment you're in. To get out, just as a quick refresher, we say deactivate. What if I wanted to do the source web dev /bin/activate? Can I go into that one? I certainly can, and then I can just deactivate and pop out. And so let's go ahead and do a source on dev fun /bin/activate. So you can move in and out of the different Python virtual environments, just like you can start up different virtual machines, and you can change tabs to go from one virtual machine to another virtual machine in VMware. All right, so here's what they want us to do. We're going to go ahead, and they talk about this in terms of sharing environments, right? And it's not really sharing technically, right? Like, it's not like someone else on a different machine can install the same libraries and then we're working in the same space. No, we're working with similar or the same virtual environments, but they're mutually exclusive. Like, I can't see the files that the other individual is working on their system, and I can't see what the students have on their computers, right? So it's not sharing from that perspective. I want you to think of it more, at least what we're going to be doing here, as creating similar or identical development environments through the use of Python virtual environments. All right, so we've reactivated the dev fun setup, and so now let's go ahead and here's what we're going to do. Remember, we're at the Python CLI, so I should say the Linux CLI here. So I can say pip3 freeze and then redirect the output from that. Remember, we saw what the output looks like for the main Python installation. Here's what it looks like for this dev fun environment. Again, this is going to be a little bit different from what you see in the lab because I threw Django in there just to show you we could put more than one library in there and add some additional functionality in. So I'm going to say pip3 freeze, and I can redirect the output. Now, they show you a single requirements.txt. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and say dev fun dot requirements.txt. So all I'm doing here is I'm running the pip3 freeze command that we know produces this output right here, and I am redirecting it, right? I'm sending it not to the screen as we saw previously right here above. I'm sending it to a file right here in this directory that's going to have the name devfun.requirements.txt. And so let's go ahead and cat out devfun.requirements.txt just to confirm. Now, it's no coincidence that the pip3 freeze command is giving us the output in the format that it is, which is this output right here, kind of the name of the package, and then, you know, what would be the version number. Now, the reason that it's doing this is because we can use this file to quickly duplicate a virtual environment, right? So not so much share the virtual environment, but we can duplicate it. So what they want us to do is we want to go ahead and we can activate a new Python virtual environment called dev-new. So let me pop out of here. I'll deactivate this right here. And let's do Python 3 -m venv, right? So create for me a virtual environment with the name dev-new. Now let's go ahead and source, whoops, we'll let that finish. We'll source dev-new bin activate. It's always the same thing. The name of the virtual environment /bin/activate. And you can see my Linux command line prompt is changed and it shows that I am in that Python virtual environment. Well, let's go ahead and say pip3 freeze. Let's see what is installed in this dev-new environment. Well, as you can see, we don't have anything. So in order to quickly duplicate one virtual environment to another virtual environment, we ran that command, pip3 freeze, and redirected the output because I want to create another development environment that's identical to the one that I'm currently using. Well, to do this, we would simply say pip3 install -r, and we're then going to give it, and you can think of the -r as like requirements, and we're going to give it the devfun.requirements.txt file. So in other words, what we're doing in the dev-new virtual environment is we're going to go ahead and install the exact same functionality, features and functionality that we've installed in the dev-fun environment. So I'm going to have two environments that should have identical functionality because we're installing the same packages. And so I hit enter, everything is going to go ahead and run, and let's see what we see now when we say pip3 freeze. And remember, you could also say, I think it was what, Python 3 -m pip, so you don't have to say pip3 freeze. But again, chances are you're just going to take the shortcut here and you're going to say pip3 -freeze, just like that, or pip3 space freeze. All right, well, we take a look at that and we can see that the dev-new environment actually has the exact same features and functionality that the dev-fun environment had. So we're in the virtual environment, right? So what happens if I say Python 3? Okay, well, now we have the interactive interpreter for Python, but let's see, can I import requests? And I can. And what that tells me is that the requests module has been imported. And here's how I know that. If I do Control D and I say deactivate, and again, I'm just kind of showing you ways to check to see or to confirm that what I'm telling you is true. So we have this CTS-233. So if I was to say source CTS-233/bin/activate, and I say pip3 freeze, we should see there's nothing installed here, right? So what happens when I say Python 3 and I say import requests? We get a module not found error. So this proves that inside of the virtual machine, when we install that library, that when we, from the virtual machine, from the Python virtual environment, when I say Python 3 and I get to the interactive interpreter, those libraries would be available if I installed them. But in this virtual environment, we did not install them. So I'll say Control D, and let's say deactivate here, and let's go ahead and say source dev-new, right, that new one we were using, /bin/activate, and now I am in the Python virtual environment dev-new. So when I say import requests, we're going to see that library is available to be imported because I used the pip3 install command that basically duplicated the dev-fun virtual environment. So what can we do here? Well, let's try this. What if I said HTTP? I'm going to give you an example of how we could use the requests library, because this is going to come up a lot once we get going. And I'll say requests.get. I'm just going to send an HTTP GET request, just like you would if you put the URL in your browser. And let's say http://postman-echo.com. So what this does is it sends an HTTP GET request to that URL. And we capture the response object, right? Because we send a GET request, we receive an HTTP response back. So we capture the response object in this variable name HTTP response. Pretty simple, right? So let's see what we can do with a response object. So if I say HTTP response, which is my response object, put a period, and then hit tab twice, it's going to show me all of the features and functionality, the methods that I could use in order to get some information. Well, maybe I'm curious, right? I ran this GET request. What was the HTTP status code that was returned to me? Okay, what was the status code 200? Well, that means success. All right, well, I'm curious, what were the HTTP headers that I got or that I received as part of that response? And again, it's kind of all over the place there, but there are all of the HTTP headers. If I wanted to see the URL that I actually received my response from, right, it would be that one right there, right? So it's a little bit longer, but again, you send the HTTP request, maybe they got load balancers, they're doing, they're forcing it to HTTPS instead of the HTTP I originally sent. So we get that back, right? We can see the URL. What if I wanted to see all of the HTML? I could say HTTP response text, right? And so there's all the HTTP code. Now, obviously, not nice and clean as we would see it maybe in a browser, but you get the idea that with that requests library that we've installed inside of our Python virtual environment dev new, that we can do some pretty cool things with what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with an R. I just totally blacked out there. Okay, anyway, I'll skip that. So you can do some pretty cool things with an HTTP response object, right, that we get from that requests.get HTTP GET request that we sent out. All right, well, that is going to wrap up Lab 3.1.12, where we explored some Python development tools, and specifically, we were creating Python virtual environments, where you would set that virtual environment up so that you can install and experiment and do all kinds of things and blow the environment up, and that's okay because your main Python installation is still there and still working like a champ. And I would highly recommend that you use Python virtual environments so that if you do make mistakes or that you do screw the environment up, that all you have to do is spin up a new environment. And we saw that you can use that pip3 freeze command in order to create a file, a text file, that you can then install with pip3 install -r and then the name of the file. And boom, you're back up and running in a virtual environment that has the same features and functionality as the one that you destroyed. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're learning a lot here this week. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video.